Mr Greiner's visit to the coast this morning was his first official engagement since his kidney stone attack late last week. The visit was a flying inspection tour of local schools. At Lisarow High, Mr Greiner was met with the news that teachers had walked out and would not return to class until he left, as a protest to the government's changes to teachers' pay and productivity levels. Mr Greiner says teachers don't appear to be able to see the logic behind the planned changes.
We'd like to pay good teachers more. I mean, the offer we've made between 9% and 25% increase is very, very generous.
Do you think it might be a case of misunderstanding by the teachers?
No, I think it might be an exercise in deliberate misunderstanding by the people at the top of the Teachers' Federation. And the rules are quite clear, they apply to everybody the same way, and it seems to me futile. I mean, I went to Lisarow School this morning, I was happy to talk to the teachers, so the teachers went on strike while I was there. Well, that's just an exercise in stupidity.
Mr Greiner then made a presentation at nearby Berkeleyvale High, where teachers had plastered the school's entry with posters. Teachers at the school decided to ignore Mr Greiner's presence and refused to allow classes out for the presentation. A handout given to the media stated that teachers decided to continue classes and treat the Premier's visit as an unwelcome interruption to routine. In Newcastle, teachers at Cardiff High held a stop work meeting this morning and sent children home. The dispute is over Year 12 teachers being asked to do other duties because their own students are on STUVAC. A spokesman for the Teachers' Federation says each time a teacher is asked to cover for another at any Newcastle or Hunter Valley High School, a stop work meeting will be called and students will be left in the playground.
Queensland developer Gordon Pacific has already won approval for an 18-hole golf course at Cam's Wharf, but it's a second course planned for the headland south of Caves Beach that's created a storm. Environmentalists have waged a long campaign against Gordon Pacific's plans for Caves Beach, with the Swansea Caves Action Group at the forefront of the battle.
It's a beautiful heathland surrounding the beach area there. A golf course will be detrimental to that heat. The soil out there is very, very fragile, and the only thing that binds it together out there is the native vegetation. Once you start to introduce vegetation necessary for a golf course, there will be a major change taking place to the ecosystem.
But Alderman Welsh pours scorn on the environmentalists' opposition.
I'd have to laugh at that because the people that are saying that obviously don't know much about that particular area. The grassland that they're talking about looking after is secondary. It's all imported grasses which were brought in there for the pit ponies.
Now, if Council does approve the golf course tonight, what action will you take from there?
Well, of course, there's no guarantee the golf course is going to go ahead. The developer and the council is still waiting on this tooth fairy to come along with the money for the whole development. But once the bulldozers go in, we will be there to protect the environment.
But from Lake Macquarie's mayor, wholehearted support for the golf course and a prediction that the developer will be quick to act after tonight's council meeting.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident it'll go ahead tonight because it's got nothing to do with the coastal strip, it's to do with the golf courses.
And how soon would you expect that work will start?
I think probably tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Well, if they get an approval tonight, tomorrow, why not?
Two primary schools, Hamilton North and Lake Road Glendale, and 3 infant schools, Adamstown Heights, Fern Bay and Nillo, are marked to be sold. In a rationalisation program by Director of Education in the Hunter, Alan Beard, the schools, which all have less than 80 students, are to be closed so vacancies in larger nearby schools can be filled.
These schools are in areas where we really have, say, 2 schools serving one community, and for efficiency we should rationalise that situation.
Teachers and parents received this letter out of the blue warning of the changes, and immediately P&C groups called meetings to fight the proposal. They claim their children's education will suffer if they are forced to move.
Everybody knows everybody here, the kids know each other by names, the teachers know their kids. It's like a real country school.
Speculating that it's more than an issue on school numbers, parents at Hamilton North Primary believe their schoolyard will be sold for use as a car park for nearby sporting facilities. The Education Department says the claim is absurd, as actual buyers for the land haven't been approached. The 5 schools are set to be sold at the end of 1990, with the proceeds being ploughed back into education. However, the money won't necessarily be spent here in the Hunter, with funding being spread statewide. And the parents say the many hours of unpaid work for improving their schools will be lost, not only for their children, but for the community as well.
We're behind our little school 100%, and if we can fight to keep it, well, then that's what we intend to do.
Parents will meet with the Education Department over the next 2 weeks before any proposal is put to the Minister, Dr Metherell. Peter Ryan, NBN News. For a small group in Civic Park this morning, the 24th of October is a special day to remember the objectives of the United Nations.
We are reinforcing the Charter to tell our people to stay united, respect each other, have no conflicts and stay in peace and harmony.
Heather McElwain from Katara High spoke of the necessity of the UN, with its 159 member countries, including Australia, working as a watchdog for international peace.
Unfortunately, we are facing an increasingly volatile age, and the United Nations is committed to protect man from the inhumanities perpetrated by man.
Later, 200 Australian native trees were planted at the Junction School, working to green the environment and mark the importance of this day.
The proposed marina and motel development for Cadet has become a hot potato, so much so that the public gallery at last night's council meeting was the largest ever seen. The issue of whether the $23 million development should get the go-ahead has divided not only the residents of Port Stephens, but also the council. Last night, the sparks flew on both sides. A motion by Councillor Bustede and Councillor Bartlett to reject the development application was defeated. Councillor Meyer then moved the council support the development, subject to height approval by the Director of Planning and a list of conditions which are to be determined by council and the Development Assessment Panel. That motion was accepted 7 votes to 5. However, Council's official support for the development may be short-lived. A late rescission motion by 3 councillors in opposition to the marina will be heard at a special council meeting on Tuesday night. They want the proposed development brought back to square one. Developer Ian McAndrew, though, is confident he now has council support.
Basically, I have to be very pleased that Council's given an indication of their support to the Peppers Anchorage development. Whilst I would very much have liked a development consent, I understand that Council will wish to place a range of conditions upon the development. We understand that. We've got conditions on our existing lease with Council, and we accept that Council needs time to put their conditions in place.
Jodie McKay for NBN News.
The award wage for a motor mechanic is $360 per week, but mechanics are being offered up to $800 to work in Hunter mines. They are taking up the offers.
It's the result of market forces operating, that when there's a shortage of skills and there's no immediate training ability to produce those people, train people quickly, that the employers compete amongst themselves and pay more to get the available workers.
Local servicing firms are angry that they spend 3 or 4 years training apprentices, yet lose their skills to the money of the mining industry. But this is not just a problem for the service centres, it's also a problem for you, the consumer. To keep mechanics, Hunter companies are forced to pay well above the award wage, and that extra expense gets passed on with repair bills. To cover higher wages of up to $500 per week, some Hunter firms are charging $48 to $50 per hour for labour. Yet areas such as Taree and Tamworth are $20 cheaper. According to a survey by the Motor Vehicle Repair Industry Council, while the shortage of mechanics continues, the industry has no alternative to improving wage payments to retain tradesmen. Inevitably, that means further charges will be passed on to the consumer. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Hunter teachers vote for rolling half-day stoppages in response to a salary package from Education Minister Metherell. The teachers rejected increases of up to 25%.
Coming up around the outside.
Well-known Gosford trainer Robert Law and his apprentice Bill Denmark were fined $1,000 and $100 respectively after Law's horse Video Kingdom was disqualified after finishing second in the short maiden handicap at Wyong races today. Video Kingdom was ridden by Denmark, who weighed in 2 kilograms light after the race. Law pleaded guilty to accidentally leaving a lead bag in the stall where he saddled up Video Kingdom. In race 5 at Wyong, the Wyong Country Intermediate Cup, someone rubbed the right lamp.
Trevino leads onto the turn. They've got 250 to go. Aladdin is the widest runner. Aladdin goes around the field, bursts to the lead now. Beedman puts away the whip. He just sits down on him, and Aladdin is storming away past the 100. Put him down in your book, and don't forget it. Aladdin bolts in from Trevino. Third home on the race was
Aladdin $1.90 and $1.30, Trevino $1.50 and Forbidden Planet $3 even. The extra double at Wyong today for the numbers of 1 and 2, $15.80, and the daily double, which was conducted on races 7 and 8, the numbers 1 and 10, $33.70. Brian Carlson was considered one of the all-time great Australian Rugby League players and a man who loved to mix his passion for football with a couple of quiet ales and a game of cards. Brian passed away 2.5 years ago, but his memory lives on, continued by a group of mates who have formed the Brian Carlson Club. One of the tasks they have undertaken is to award a scholarship to a player from the Newcastle Knights SG ball side. Last year the recipient was Shane Mackley, and his performance this year vindicated the judge's decision.
Well, they told us that we picked the wrong fellow, and he only represented the Knights from under 17s. He jumped to under 23 star. I think he scored most tries for the season, and then represented New South Wales and Australia against the English schoolboys.
Rodney Howell will be trying to live up to the example set by Mackley, and the strapping 16-year-old front rower has made a great start by playing for his state in the under-15s. He receives a $3,000 Achiever account, which is held in trust until he's 18 and gives him a great chance of furthering his career.
Yeah, it's great. It's a big achievement for me. I just like the award, and I like to thank the Brian Carlson Club for the award.
So what are your aspirations now?
I just like to keep playing football and training, and hopefully I can go on to bigger and better things.
For Chief General Manager of the Newcastle Knights, Brian Judd, the Brian Carlson Club is an integral part of the future for the Knights.
Tremendous support for the Knights. The Carlson Club was formed when the Knights came into the Sydney competition, and they certainly form a very important part of our activities.
It's a performance like this that John Farnham fans expect in his One Newcastle concert on December 5, part of his The Whispers Out tour. At 3 o'clock this morning, fans began queuing outside the Civic Theatre box office. While the concrete was cold and hard, the coffee and biscuits being handed out by the Salvation Army helped make the long wait a little easier. The fans had been hoping for front row tickets. The catch is there won't be any. It'll be standing room only at the Broadmeadow International Sports Centre, the site for the rock concert.
7,500 fans will be crammed into these grounds, but organisers are taking no chances with the weather and they'll be putting up a big top. They say John Farnham's performances are in such a high demand they'd be unable to reschedule another concert date in the event of a rain washout.
The big top will look like this one used for the Torval and Dean show, turning the playing field into a temporary entertainment centre.
A man wearing a black balaclava walked into the store shortly after midday, closing the roller door behind him.
He then went to the shop assistant who was at the till, grabbed her on the shoulder, held a knife at her head and told her to stand where she was.
The terrified shop assistant was coerced into helping the thief bundle hundreds of dollars from the cash register into a paper bag. But from then, the robbery plan went wrong when an unwitting customer tried to reopen the front door.
Apparently somebody came to the front door and knocked as though wanting to know if the place was opened, and that in turn has scared the offender.
The intruder ran out through the back of the store, spilling notes in his haste to escape. Despite an intense search, police could find no sign of the man, described as 190 centimetres tall, wearing a maroon jumper and blue jeans. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Taking no chances, the workers immediately called in police, who roped the area off and advised army experts from the Denman bomb squad of the find. The 1941 75mm projectile could have contained high explosives, white phosphorus or simply dirt. No one was sure, but potentially it was lethal.
I have seen these items before, and the army specifies about 1/4 kilometre all round it as a safety zone when they're going to detonate it.
This morning, chemist Tom McMahon was working on the chemical collection campaign, a hunter-wide project collecting dangerous pesticides and herbicides for safe disposal. To Tom's surprise, the bomb was casually handed in, and fearing the worst, he immediately carried the shell into nearby bush.
You didn't think that perhaps might have been your last moment on this planet?
When he first gave it to me, I thought it might have been, but after the first few steps, nothing happened, so I was fairly confident I'd have been around for 40 years. It only had to last another 20 seconds.
To the relief of onlookers, the bomb was found to be inert, but only 2 weeks ago, dangerous detonators were handed in at Cessnock, and...
In the Sydney campaign, they received some napalm and also some bullets. In the Melbourne campaign, they've received some explosives as well.
A warning today from police that old explosives should not be moved and left only for the experts.
If anybody has any unexploded munitions at home, they should contact the police station nearest the home at once, and the police will arrange for an expert to come down and have a look at the matter. They shouldn't carry them around themselves. Even though they may think they're not live, until the expert has had a look, we cannot tell.
One of 16 cadet units in the state, the Newcastle branch was prepared and polished for the important inspection. Commander Cunningham from HMAS Watson in Sydney checked efficiency and training standards in line with strict naval traditions. 31 cadets stood the test and now enter in a statewide competition for the best drilled unit. A little less formal, 30 walkers trekked 6 kilometres from the International Sports Centre to Lambton Park in aid of hunter life education. Although only a small group, it's hoped thousands of dollars will be raised to help promote a healthy lifestyle for the youth of the area.
When you embark on a new career in the toughest rugby league competition in the world, you don't expect things to be made too easy for you. So for Marty Krieger, it was all aboard the 155 from Central, destination Newcastle, and a playing contract with the Knights. Krieger's record is outstanding, with 14 appearances for his country, including 3 tests, and in those 14 matches, he's managed to score 7 tries. Out for a lot of last season because of a broken bone in his leg, he made a brilliant comeback, scoring 91 points in 10 games and in the process helping his club Northcote to the Auckland Premiership and the New Zealand Championship. His arrival at Broadmeadow was a bit dramatic today as he had to force his way onto the platform, with coach Alan McMahon taking plenty of notice in Creeker's fancy footwork. Entering into a 2-year contract with the Knights, he's apprehensive but confident.
It's a little bit, but I think you've got to be confident in your own ability, and you know, I've played international sides and have been able to compete with the players, you know, so I'm confident that I'll succeed.
The goal-kicking outside centre come wingman will feel right at home as Knights players James Goulding and Sam Stewart are former national teammates.
Having guys that I know, and you know, it's going to make it easier to settle in and then hopefully just straight into playing football.
For Vice-Chairman of the Knights Michael Hill, who handled all of Marty's negotiations, it's great to have him in Newcastle.
Oh, we're very pleased to have him. In his last 9 or 10 games in New Zealand, he scored 91 points. He's a recognised goal kicker. He's a try scorer. We're looking forward to seeing him on the park.
They're called Whiz Kids, the Hunter region's top young mathematicians. Each has excelled in the annual primary mathematics competition held in public and independent schools throughout the Hunter. From humble beginnings in 1981, this year's contest has grown to a record 10,000 entries. With that kind of competition, organisers say it's quite a feat to emerge as a prize winner. Top honours went to Andrew McLeod, a Year 6 student at Hamilton South. Andrew confesses maths isn't his first love. In fact, his career plans centre elsewhere.
Maybe going with biology to be a park ranger.
Equal second, Tara Kaiser of Blackhaw's Public and Jonathan Kessel of St Mary's Primary at Scone. In Year 5, the outright winner was Lisa Gottlieb of Nelson Bay Public. And to end the day, a photo opportunity for proud parents.
The police band set the mood by joining residents and school children in sing-along numbers. The week will endeavour to bring the police and people to work together to stop crime and make the community a safer place in which to live, or strengthening Neighbourhood Watch. There was much interest in the displays, showing advanced highway patrol radar units, breathalyser and photographic boards. However, the force's latest crime-fighting promoter, Bobby Bluelight, stole the show. The remote control robot with its moving parts, flashing lights and voice synthesizer provided plenty of safety hints. Meanwhile, police voted to press ahead for a new restructuring package, including an 18% pay rise.
The Hunter Valley Task Force was set up last year to advise the Greiner government on local issues. Today, 6 of the 14 members of that committee boycotted the annual meeting, claiming matters of local concern had not been referred to them and the committee had become a showcase for the Greiner government.
Well, we feel that there has been insufficient consultation in this whole process. We think the committee was put together with the very best of thoughts and ideals, but it hasn't worked. We find the major problem areas in the Hunter Valley have not been addressed by the committee. The government has just made unilateral decisions. We've been either told about them later or read about it in the press.
According to Mr Price, the last straw for the Labor members was the proposal to close 5 Hunter Valley schools, which he claims the committee knew nothing about.
So was the closure of the schools the final straw, as far as you're concerned? Yes,
that was the catalyst. That was the catalyst. We'd been most concerned right up to the point where the 5 Elcom mines were to be offered for sale. The way that announcement was made was disgusting. Equally with the Rix's Creek open cut mine. Again, that overrode a local government body totally, and 95% poll of the people in the Singleton region.
Chairman of the task force, Virginia Chadwick, today denied there had been any lack of consultation between the government and the committee and said she was disappointed at the Labor members' actions. Jodie McKay for NBN News.